And welcome back to Cape Town. And we are, of course, here for the Green Hydrogen Summit. And you may be hearing a bit more of a buzz behind me. And that's because the delegates are streaming in thick and fast at this point. And, of course, to discuss a very important moment in our South African history in terms of just, moving forward the energy space and that sector and all it can produce. It's all about the opportunities. And I'm joined now by Minister in the Presidency, Mondli Gungubele. Thanks so much for stopping by and having a word with us.
Good morning, Saga. Good morning to your viewership. Thanks for the opportunity.
So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, what an opportunity, given that this particular technology, what we are trying to do here in terms of enabling a better South Africa from an energy perspective is such a momentous moment for South Africa, given that we can watch this baby grow. We can actually inculcate in this baby what we want to see further down the line. How do you see it from government's perspective?
This is one of the greatest opportunities, Sagi, which South Africa must not mess up, even Africa for that instance. We've got Mauritania, Egypt, Kenya here, Cameroon. This country that is playing football. How do I forget it? It's okay, no problem. There's what we call Africa Green Hydrogen Alliance. Those countries are here. Europe is here. This is a historic opportunity in the sense that, again, there's a global objective of moving towards net zero emissions, 2050. That is where humanity is going to save itself. The key thing is that South Africa is one of the key role players in that direction because we're one of the sunniest countries, a lot of wind, and we're there as contributors of what you call of renewable energy. Green hydrogen is what we are able actually to supply. For instance, those who are researchers have already told us that if we actually put our ducks in a row, we stand to be the Saudi Arabia in the future in as far as supplying green energy is concerned, which is an energy that actually focuses mainly on the hard-to-abate industries, transport, those that are difficult to actually reduce emission from. So we've got that opportunity now to exploit our natural endowment, which we didn't do in the mercantile era. Remember, in the mercantile era, we had gold, we had many things. Europe came to take our gold and beneficiate the way they want. We've got an opportunity not to do the same foolishness now.
Starts with the money. And Dr. Ramaphosa was explaining earlier why there was a need to go out and get the funding in order to bring down the cost curve. He was explaining that earlier. But I can't help but wonder, could we not have found that money elsewhere? Could we not have found that money locally in order to basically keep out and not repeat the mistakes, as you say, from the mercantile era and before that? Couldn't we have done it differently?
The key thing, the immediate money, Sakina, that is available. For instance, the KfW from Germany. It's a grant funding, so there is no interest or whatever. It's money that were being given free to make use. All such money, it doesn't matter where they come from. As long as it's a grant funding, we must make use of. But if it becomes an interest-bearing money, that is where you begin to think very carefully because you look at the sustainability of our sovereignty and so on. This one is no worry. It's a grant funding, Sakina.
But what about the terms and conditions?
Terms and conditions is that we must use it effectively, usefully. I'm trying to imagine why would we have a problem with the conditions of productivity, reliability, accountability, any country that does not want to be subjected to those conditions is not worth the salt of its mission.
You see, it's not that we don't want to be subjected to it and that we have a problem with that per se. Part of the problem is that we don't know what the terms and conditions are.
No, a grant funding, Sakina, it's a grant funding. We're given money to use to take off our projects that get South Africa ready to actually ensure, one, we exploit the economic opportunity that is offered to us by green hydrogen, and two, that we continue to be a relevant trading partner. Let me give you an example. One of the reasons why South Africa must be apace with the issues of decarbonization, resilient transition, protecting vulnerable communities is that Europe has already given all the countries that produce cars a certain deadline that if by now you are still producing carbon emitting, what we call cars, we don't trade with you. It's a huge threat to South Africa in the sense that no less than 100,000 employees are in that industry. So it's not just a question of climate change. It's a question of economic relevance to keep economy alive in our country.
And I hope that we're going to keep the conversation alive about what this actually means, because half the time I don't think, we are communicated to as well as we would like to by government. Sometimes we would like to also be consulted as broader society. We would like to know what it is that government is going to present at COP27. We would like to know what it is that are contained within those agreements that are signed in the UK before you actually sign them. Because the electorate has changed, the world has changed, and we do want to know more.
If you talk, Sakina, the just energy transition investment plan, which has been widely accepted in the COP27. There's been huge consultation. Is it enough? No. Remember, before we could take it to cabinet, it had to be consulted with a lot of key sectors, especially the activists for just transition. On behalf of the vulnerable workers, vulnerable communities, it has been consulted. After the cabinet adopted it, we are going to continue to consult, because at the end of the day, the key success of that plan is when it is accepted by broader South Africa. I fully agree with you.
Perfect. So I'm glad that we can end on that conciliatory note of understanding between Minister Gungubele and I. And of course, we're still here today and tomorrow. We'll have you more of this in the agenda. But that's it with Minister in the Presidency, Mondli Gungubele. And for Morning Live, goodbye for today.